It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
No, it is not Evan Roberts, as he is flying out to London. Pete Hoffman filling in. You can follow me at HoffWFAN. Thank you for following right now. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Thank you for watching this episode of Rico Brogna, as the New York Mets thankfully have won their first series since May 6th? May 7th? What was the dates? I had it up here. Since May 7th. Remember they had that little 2-game Cardinal series? And they actually ran it. They rained out the third game, so that's rescheduled. But they had the two games versus the Cardinals that they won, and the Mets won that. This is now they were winless in 7 straight series. They tied one that was versus the Diamondbacks. Before that, they lost 6 straight series. I mean, this team looked like they were on their final thread, and it was close. Like, listen, if this was July 15th, 20th, yeah, they'd be selling off left and right. But it is still June 5th. June 5th, guess what? 8 games out of 500. 8 games under 500 sucks, but 3.5 games out of a wild card position, that's good. So there's still hope, especially as, again, the Mets actually looked good this series versus Washington. And let's start with this. They had a huge, was it 3rd inning versus Patrick Corbin, who just looked terrible. They were just, the Mets have started to hit. And let me just say, for anyone who criticizes the Mets that, oh, now they hit, there's no pressure on them, they're 10 games out, they're 9 games out, whatever it is, they're not going to win the division, there's no pressure. Now Francisco Lindor's hitting, now Pete Alonso's hitting, now everyone's hitting Starling Marte, JD Martinez, who's got a 10-game hitting streak, now everyone's hitting. Oh, okay, yeah, of course, because it doesn't mean anything. BS. It means a ton. It means a ton. First of all, for guys who are looking for contracts, hello, does JD Martinez want to play any more baseball after this year? Does Pete Alonso want to get a decent contract? I mean, right now, I always say he's going to make over $250 or close to it. At this point in time, he may have to take one of those 1-year deals and try to, earn it back for next year, which he does not want to do. So they're playing for something regardless. If it's just their selfishness, fine. But then, do they want to stay in New York? I mean, that's the other thing. Do they want to be on this team? Some guys may not want to. Some guys may want to be here. Some of the young kids may want to be here. Some young kids may want playing time. So, like a guy like Mark Vientos, who has just shown up since he's been called up and done nothing but hit the ball and make great plays at third base. Yeah, it means something. So get rid of that notion of, oh, of course, now they're hitting because it means jack. You know what? When this team is back at 500, tell me then that what they've done meant nothing. Tell me then that the end of May and the beginning of June meant absolutely nothing when they are back at 500, because that's where they're going right now. Listen, I understand, still a long way. They're 8 games under 500, so I'm not an idiot. I'm not stupid. This is not happening tomorrow. This may not happen this month. They have to go on a really hot streak. Plus, they have to start winning series. So until that happens, which they just swept the Nationals, so that's good. But until that happens consistently, we can't be talking about any of this stuff. But, again, it was a good series to watch. The Nationals, unfortunately right now, they are better than the Mets. Not by much, by a half a game, but they're better than the Mets. They're on the same level. But then you can see how good the Mets actually can be. The biggest issue right now is the bullpen. We could sit there all day and talk about whatever we want with this Mets team. The bullpen likes to give the games back. That's why to see a performance like Luis Severino go 8 innings, 4 strikeouts. I think he gave up 7 hits, 0 walks, 1 run. It was awesome. It was needed. It was great before this trip to London. And, there's not much you can say about Severino, but he was great. I mean, that is the expectation. That was the height of Luis Severino. This is what we thought we can get out of him. Now, is he a Cy Young contender? No, he hasn't been that good. But let's be serious there. Let's look through his numbers. He is worthy of a nod that he can definitely. Look at my phone as my son was playing a video game beforehand, so he messed up that. He is someone, Luis Severino, who came into the season. The expectations were, can he get back to, can he stay healthy? And can he get back to that normal, his normal stats? Get back to a little, above 3 ERA, a bunch of strikeouts, a low whip. Last year was terrible. We all know that. And you look at what he's done so far, going into today, his numbers were, his numbers 64 innings, 54 Ks, 27 walks, a high walk total, but a 3.52 ERA with a 1.17 whip, 4 quality starts, 3-2 record. 3-2 record means nothing because, again, I mean, did he really win the game? Did he really lose the game? It depends on what's going on with the rest of the guys in the field. Point being is that serviceable numbers, much better than the 6.65 ERA he had last year with the 1.65 whip. No, right? And then today he goes out there and in 8 innings, gives up only 1 run, and they scored the run on him. He was getting a little tired in the 8th inning. I mean, I think at one point in time, I forgot his exact pitch total, but I think in the 6th inning it was at 56 or 60 pitches. I mean, that was amazing. He was so efficient. It was great. So Luis Severino, you got to tip the cap to him, and that's what the Mets. That's been their brightest spot basically all season long. Now between David Peterson pitching well, Luis Severino looking good, Tyler McGill, if he starts, Christian Scott, we'll see if he returns, but he looked good in his last in his last start. Then you got Sean Manaea, who's found some moments as well. You've had some pitchers that have really stepped up in a season that could be lost if they didn't do their job better. If they weren't doing their job, the Mets season would be complete loss. If the starting pitching couldn't at least hold this down, because they're keeping them in games. We could sit here and say that the Mets hitting has been atrocious and that the bullpen has basically crapped the bed for this past month. If it wasn't for the starting pitching, none of it would matter, because if you're not preventing runs and you're not scoring runs, you're losing every game. So you got to say, and you have to be proud of what Luis Severino and the rest of this pitching staff has done so far. Now, it's not listen, we're not at a halfway mark. We're still at a bit of a quarter of, more of a third through the season. And now the Mets are starting to hit. Like I said, to start the episode, it does mean something. It is important. Yeah, they're hitting now, and yes, it does count. I don't care what they say, what anybody says. And Lindor's been the guy in charge. Pete Alonso's been getting his rips. Everybody has been getting a piece of the ball, except for Jeff McNeil, who, guess what? For a 3rd straight game, was on the bench. And I'm not saying that he is the reason why the offense has looked better, but I'll tell you this much. I do not miss him throwing his bat, throwing his helmet, making a stink out of everything, hitting lazy balls. This is just a better situation. And I love the fact that David Stearns is sticking to the fact that you have to perform. You have to play. You have to perform at a high level and help win games. Otherwise, you mean nothing to this team. And whether it's a bench spot, whether it's being cut, whatever it is, Jeff McNeil's making a lot of money. So, of course, they're not looking to get rid of him right away. But that may be the case sooner than later. Eventually, he may be gone from this team, and that's okay. Now, I will tell you one person, though, who has been doing a great job with the bat and with the defense that I do not want to see go. I'm tired of the nonsense with Pete Alonso, because all I hear about is he's a one-tool player. He's a big chooch who just hits home runs. That's it. Now, do I disagree? Do I agree that he does hit home runs? Yes, he's a home run hitter, no doubt about it. Is it a little annoying that right now this season he hasn't really performed in a big spot. Yeah, there's been some moments that he's come up small, but that's not how it's been his career. Like everyone sits there and talks about Pete Alonso's career and how he's always hitting big home runs in small spots. How about you look back? How about you look back, especially in the 101 win season when they're walking off the Cardinals, in extra innings or the ninth inning or whatever it was. Like Pete Alonso has had some big opportunities, big moments, and he's delivered. I know we don't want to think that because we want to just look at what he's done right now in the past year, and it hasn't been great. Okay, that's fine. I get it. But he's not a one-tool player. He's not one-dimensional. He's not someone that just hits home runs. He does get on base other ways. He can hit doubles. He's listen. He hit a rocket in the first inning, I think it was, or the second inning, where someone just was positioned properly, but he smoked that ball. You want to talk about exit velo? He hit the hardest ball of the game at 116 miles per hour. I mean, what are you going to do about that? He crushed it. It just, the defense was positioned properly. I know it didn't go over the fence, but he smoked that ball. It happens. His timing is picking up. It's getting better. And then on top of the fact that his offense is picking up, again, you want to sit there and we'll nitpick and it was an awful streak. I'm not going to dismiss it, but he did go like 1 for 30 something or 2 for 45 at some point in time this season, which completely tanked his stats, tanked his average, tanked his on base, tanked his OPS, tanked everything. That was a bad moment in this season. But ever since then, he's been batting closer to 300. His OPS is getting up there. Maybe it's not 1,000, but in the past 3 weeks of games, his numbers have gotten to the point where it's like, okay, Pete's hitting again. Pete's looking good. But then on top of that, his defense, he made so many snags today at first base. It is getting embarrassing, the people that just sit there and whether they're not watching the games or they just want to criticize because he doesn't look the part of a first baseman. He looks a little bit thick. He's not as graceful as some of these other first basemen, but that doesn't mean he's not making the plays. Like, open your freaking eyes. He is better at first base than you want to give him credit for. And I don't want to sit here and make it about a defense of Pete Alonso and try to make my case to give him a freaking gold glove. That's not my point. But I'm sick and tired of people saying that he's a average at best first baseman. My ass, you're not watching him play. That's what that means. If you say he's average at best first base, then you are not watching Pete Alonso every inning of every game. You can nitpick the one time he makes an error. Go for it. Laugh hysterical at how bad the Mets have played or played in May. Go for it. The whole team played like crap. There was everything that was bad. But do not sit there, and there's no way you can look at me dead in the face and say Pete Alonso is an average first baseman who doesn't really – the plays he makes, they are supposed to be made. He's going out there, and he's making phenomenal plays. He's been making great diving catches, diving stops, stick grabs with the glove. He is not a butcher boy at first base. I'm sorry. He's just not. If it's not for him, some of those throws by Vientos are not amazing. They're not as good as they are. Lindor and Iglesias now, who's played a really good second base. Alonso is helping a lot more than anyone wants to give him credit for. And that's fine. You don't want to sit there and give Pete Alonso credit. You want to dog him. It's all good. He doesn't, he's not rocking the, he's not a lefty at first base. So yeah, he may not be as fluid and graceful as some other people, but dude, I've seen Paul Goldschmidt play first base for years, Albert Pujols, Miguel Cabrera, all these other right-handed throwing first basemen who've played that position. So the glove's not naturally on the right hand there, it's on the left hand, and they've still been fine. Now, are they all graceful? I'm not trying to say he's graceful, but he's making the plays. So let's really calm down with Pete Alonso's defense, and that WAR stat can kiss my ass, okay? Because it means nothing to me if it's just on paper. If you're watching the game, it's a different story. If you watch the plays and explain to me how these things are just so basic, maybe, but they're not. They're not. That you're kidding yourself if you think that Pete Alonso is basic these days. We're gonna get into voicemails in a little bit. We'll obviously there's the London series coming up right now, which is just I don't know if it's good timing or bad timing because London is one of those things, especially in football, more football than baseball. But football's you go overseas and you just see sloppy games. It's never really good. The team that is least first of all, most of the teams that go out there to London or Europe in general aren't the best teams anyway. You're not expecting a great game. So teams magically win that aren't supposed to win. Okay? But in baseball, I mean, I remember the series with the Yankees and the Red Sox. I just remember them being like explosive. Like there was so many runs scored. It was all over the place. I don't think it was a very tight game, low scoring game. It just was. It was what it was. So I kind of could feel that type of Phillies, Mets, high scoring, all over the place. No one's really going to pitch perfectly. There's probably going to be some sloppy play, some errors and stuff like that. It just closed-minded, go in there, just close your eyes, just be like, listen, if the Mets can split this 2-game stupid series, take it. I would love for them to sweep. I would love for them to win too. First of all, you're going in against the hottest team, one of the hottest teams in the league in the Phillies. They are just that good. They truly are. We used to criticize the Phillies bullpen more than anyone else. We used to go up and down that team and say, who's good in this Phillies bullpen? They got one of the better bullpens in the league. I mean, between Spencer Turnbull now, who transitioned from a starting pitcher to bullpen, Matt Strahm, Jeff Hoffman. I mean, and those guys aren't their closers. Those are just regular bullpen guys. That's where the Mets need to pick up their game. They need to find their bullpen needs to turn into that. They've turned back, like the clock hit 12 and everyone went back to their houses and, realized that they're not really supposed to be pitching that good in the Mets bullpen. Meanwhile, the Phillies bullpen has just been outstanding. So I don't know if it's going to be a great series in London. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. And obviously, Pete Hoffman, who's filling in for Evan Roberts right now. Evan will be doing a podcast live from some tower that he's excited about in London, and maybe Big Ben, which is ridiculous. Again, it's just a clock, people. It's nothing that exciting about to get. Listen, he's right. The food sucks. I've been there before. He said that's what he heard. It's true. Food is not very good. Everything is overpriced. The one time I went there, I felt like a very overpriced New York City. And just imagine that, because New York City is very overpriced as it is, and this is more overpriced than New York City. It's not very fun. It's very boring to me. But the Mets are going there. They're playing there. They're playing the Phillies. So we'll see how that series goes. Now, I did promise voicemails, so let's get into that. And if you'd like to, I am throwing out the link below. You can click on that link. Make sure that your video is up and your audio is up, and I'll try to get you into this podcast as we're doing it live right now. Episode 282 on YouTube. So more than welcome to click on it. Got to have Google Chrome. Also need to have your video and audio up. But I know it's been dragging on, and I apologize. I will finally get to some voicemails. There's been a bunch of them, so it's going to be scattered. Some of them are going to be a little bit older, but I wanted to get to some of these. So let's listen in on the first one that we got from the Rico Brogna. Again, you can always call us 725-222-8699 or email us at thericob@gmail.com. All right, here's the first voicemail that we got.
Hey, guys, it's Jeff from Raleigh. Just wanted to say I call early because I listen to the podcast first thing in the morning, hoping to cheer myself up. I'm so glad you guys have this voicemail number. Maybe it shouldn't be called Rico Brogna voicemail line, or however you pitch it. You should call it the New York Mets Crisis Intervention Hotline, because it does serve as a venting platform. I just want to say, going into June now, it's going to be about June 1st in a day or two. The problem with this Mets season is that I thought we were going to be better than this, and if not, there was going to be signs of optimism going forward. And I know Christian Scott has been pretty good and things like that, but he hasn't been great. And Vientos isn't playing, and Beatty has not been good. And like you guys emphasized last time, there's nobody healthy that's ready to come up. At this point in the season, what's making it so unbearable is that not only does it look like the Mets aren't going to be any good this year, there is absolutely nothing on the field that shows us that we will be any good in the future. So that's the part that's most disappointing. Hang in there, guys. We're all hanging in. Just remember, don't love the team more than they love you. They don't love us. Just remember that. Bye.
Jeff, good call. A lot in there. Listen, I will say one thing, and I do disagree with one thing. You're worried about next year's team already. I'm gonna stick with this year's team right now. We can't get to next year. I will tell you this much. This is why everyone says, "Oh, just blow up the team, get rid of everybody," is an idiotic statement because realistically, say they did get rid of everybody. Say they got rid of Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, Brandon Nimmo, Starling Marte. Obviously you're not going to get rid of the young kids like Alvarez and Vientos and Beatty at the moment. But if you find a way to get someone to take Francisco Lindor's contract off of you, find a way to get rid of, all the starting pitching and Edward Diaz and everything like that. How are you supposed to bring in Juan Soto? Like, you just completely blew up the team, and now you want to say, hey, Juan Soto will give you all the money in the world, come over here and save us, and have no one to play with? That's idiotic. That's why it's got to be calculated on who the Mets are going to move on from, who are they going to stick with. Again, and yesterday's podcast with Evan, he made a great point where it's not just about who the Mets are building around. To keep Pete Alonso or to keep Brandon Nimmo on the New York Mets, it's not to say we're building around Brandon Nimmo and Pete Alonso. But maybe the person you bring in, you start to build around, like Juan Soto, and have Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo as pieces around him. And think about that. If Juan Soto's here, that's just the obviously the hot free agent, so that's who we're talking about. But if Juan Soto is here and Pete Alonso, a 40 home run hitter, is here, and Brandon Nimmo, who gets on base a ton, is here, and those two guys are working, and Lindor is here, who we could see him. We know he's a 30-30-30 type of guy. Those three guys are around Juan Soto. That's building a good team because Juan Soto is the piece you're building it around. You're not building around Lindor. You're not building around Alonso. Those pieces are around Soto now. Okay, you see what Juan Soto's doing with the Yankees and with the pinstripes. Why can't he come here with those type of talented players? Now, obviously, they need to start showing their talent a little bit more, and they have. But that's something that I understand the concern, and that's why you may not see everyone and their mother get traded from this New York Mets roster. It's just not possible. There are going to be some moves, and again, we're still over a month and a half away from the trade deadline. Like, it's still so far away. We can't even really talk about who they're trading. Obviously, if Jeff McNeil starts to hit, get his ass out of here. That's great. Move on from that contract. But it's not happening tomorrow. And yeah, listen, it is a little upsetting because I personally thought that this team, and I still do believe it, still think they're going to be like a 500 team, and that can get you in the playoffs or close to it. They're going to be, in my opinion, they'll be in this spot all season long. If they fight this way, if David Stearns is proactive, and not just an owner or a president of baseball operations who just sits there and waits around to prove that his moves are right, then we could sneak into the playoffs. we could make moves that help us win more ball games. And we could be closer to a 500 team in the near future. And maybe trade deadline comes around. Maybe we're not selling everybody, but maybe we're also not, buying anything. But we're still going to be in this place where we have entertaining baseball in August and September, and maybe make a push to finally, maybe we're on the outs of a playoff, but it may be closer than you think. So yeah, it sucks because but that's the one thing that Jeff. The one thing I will say, did you think they were going to be like winning the division? Like, how good did you think this team was? I never thought they were anything more than a 6 seed in the wild card. So maybe our expectations were a little different. Again, you could always hit us up 725-222-8699 or at Gmail, WFA. Oh, no, not WFA Daily. The Rico B at gmail.com. All right, let's listen to another voicemail.
Hey, Rico. I want to sound off on what's going on with this Mets team and why this is more frustrating than any position we have been in before. I think it's because for the first time in a long time, we don't know who to blame. And that leads us to having no hope for the future. Because in the past, the Wilpons were always the scapegoat for a long time. If we can get rid of the Wilpons, things will be better. We finally get rid of the Wilpons. We get the owner we want. Things are not better. Well, it's because he has the old GM. And we get a new GM, and that didn't work out. But once he gets the right GM, combine that with the owner's pocketbooks, then we're going to have something. So then we get the GM. We get one of the smartest front office guys in the business. We have the owner with the biggest pocketbook. And it's still not happening. And not only are they still losing, but they're still the same dysfunctional mess that they've been before. So of course fans are calling for a complete teardown because that's the only thing we can think of that gives us some actual hope. Because otherwise, problem. Who is the problem? Are we the problem? I don't know who's left to blame at this point. We've gotten everything we need to be a success, and we're still an absolute mess.
Yeah, listen, that's very depressing. Thank you for that voicemail. Who's to blame? Who's to blame? You want to put blame on people, and it's kind of old and outdated, but I'll say it this much: like Steve Cohen has really tried to put his money where his mouth is. He's trying to better the team in all different ways. I will remind everybody, the Wilpons put this team in a huge hole, this franchise in a huge hole. They did not take care of this franchise in all different ways, whether it was the play on the field, the scouts, the upper management. There was just so many different levels just around the field itself. Listen, we're talking about Steve Cohen coming in and trying to basically build up the area to make it more of an attraction, right? So, yeah, that stuff is you could sit there and blame the Wilpons on. But how about this? If you want to blame somebody, blame the fact that Theo Epstein didn't want to come here. And Theo Epstein didn't want a job. Okay? Because if you recall, when Steve Cohen took over, obviously Sandy Alderson was attached to him. But the first real person they wanted to bring in was Theo Epstein to do this job. And he said, no, I don't want it. He declined. He declined all jobs. So it wasn't like he declined the Mets. He just didn't want to be the GM, president of baseball operations anymore. He's done with it. He wants a different position in baseball. I've heard rumors of him really trying to move up in the rankings to try to be different levels in baseball, like running baseball as a whole, not running a baseball franchise. So if you want to blame somebody, blame it on the fact that Theo Epstein just didn't want to do it anymore. Because Sandy Alderson we all know why he was here, because he would ease in, Steve Cohen into the league and he's not going to allow Steve to just go throw around money the way that he may have wanted to. But Jared Porter and Zach Scott, they weren't on any of his list to hire as a real fix, as a solid fix. They were temporary. They were around the league. They're getting good report cards. They have good grades. They're supposedly the next big things, so let's bring them in. But they both failed for off the field stuff, not on the field stuff. So we can't even tell what they would have done here. We have no clue what they would have done. And then Billy Epler came in as the hands up. We got to bring somebody in here. He knows the area. He was with the Yankees forever. He was with Anaheim. Let's bring him in. What's the worst that can happen? Well, what's the worst that could happen was he came in, got the team 101 wins, didn't do anything for the trade deadline. And I will tell you this much. That's the one thing I will totally blame on Billy Epler and the Mets at that point in time, because we see how hard it is to win championships in general in this town, in general in life. Doesn't make a difference if it's baseball, basketball, football, hockey. It's tough to win a championship. So when you have an opportunity, you have to go for it. A 101-win team at the deadline, their big moves were Daniel Vogelbach and Darren Ruff. Like, that's not good enough, right? We can all agree that that's not good enough at all. So they didn't go for it. Billy Epler, the next season didn't do anything big. Now, that could have also been Steve Cohen saying, we have a bigger picture plan. We're going to bring in David Stearns eventually. So, no, I'm not going to allow you to go crazy, getting rid of prospects, getting rid of the farm, doing things that could eventually screw up this franchise even more. Remember all the trades that took place, the Nolan Ryan trades, the Scott Kazmir trades. You go down the list of the trades that the Mets gave away prospects for a rental that didn't do anything here. We've gone through it. It's not happening again. Okay? It's not happening again. So Steve Cohen did not allow it. So that's why Billy Epler in 2022 maybe wasn't able to go out of his way to bring in a piece, because maybe Cohen was worried he was going to screw it up. And then in 2023, all he really was allowed to do was, hey, Scherzer, Verlander, get these guys out of here. Let's see what we can bring back. And he did his best. And now the guy that maybe wasn't first choice with Theo Epstein, but David Stearns was their second choice. And they tried hard to get him. And he was in a contract. And even when he stepped down from that position, the Brewers still blocked it. But now he's here, and he's going to fix this. So you have to be positive about the outlook. It might not happen this year, but it's going to get better. And again, the live evaluation of this team. Hey, Jeff McNeil isn't hitting. He ain't playing. End of story. There's no, he makes a lot of money, so he needs to play. That is done. That is Brett Beatty. We're going to give you the first shot at third base. Keep the job. If you don't want it, just keep on not hitting. You can play defense. That's awesome. But you need to hit the ball. Oh, you're not hitting? See you later. I know he's getting the trip to London, but he's not getting the trip back to the majors anytime soon. I know he's hitting in the minors, but that's not the same. Good. Congratulations. You're a 4A player, but that's not good enough. Take a listen to another voicemail.
Hey, Evan, Pete. I thought I'd give you a call here after your little 2-game win streak. That was nice. Team meeting, rah, let's go. Manaea just got taken out of the game. Man, that starting pitching is really looking strong. Severino looking great. Manaea looking great. Oh, we've got David Peterson, Quintana, McGill, one good start. We might as well make him, Randy Johnson in his prime. Look at that starting pitching, Evan. Everybody said the starting pitching was going to be bad, and it wasn't that bad. I mean, how's that starting pitching really? Severino, Manaea, Hauser. Really, Stearns hooked you up there. And then, you go to David Peterson. Why is Budo not getting starts over David Peterson? Are we serious? David Peterson, do you really think he's going to be good? Haven't we seen enough of Tylor McGill and David Peterson? One decent effort at home against the Dodgers. You know what pitchers do always when they come off like the IL or the start of season, and especially the start of season? They're hot. They're hot when they're fresh. Haven't we seen Peterson and McGill enough? But anyways, I know, you were right about the starting pitching, or you thought that, since everybody said that was going to be the weakness, that they're wrong. Yeah. That starting pitching looks real strong. And Lindor, you know what? You keep saying, lately you've been saying, oh, why did it take this long to have a team meeting? This is about the 5th team meeting that they've had. This is the only one that they've publicly shared. Lindor is the leader of the rah-rah whisper into Nimmo's ear. After Lindor strikes out, he whispers into Nimmo's ear because Alonso's sick and tired of hearing it. Oh, he threw a changeup. He's got a slider. Lindor, the leader of making a good defensive play and acting like he's some champion. It's all easy when you're 10 games back to perform.
Well, I don't know if that was all sarcasm. I'll tell you this much. Yeah, Lindor, I will give you. Again, I don't know how much of this is sarcasm, but the Lindor stuff is true. Lindor has been working his tail off with his team. The preseason, he was working with Beatty and Vientos, trying to get them better defensively. I mean, when the whole stealing issue, when the guys couldn't throw out a base runner, whether it was the pitchers or the catchers, Lindor was sitting there trying to, teach them tricks and teach them some things that they could do together to work on how to pick these guys off. I think that Lindor is a leader. And whether or not it came late, this meeting, it happened. And it happened at the right time it was supposed to, because it looks like they've responded. Listen, 7 games since that team meeting, and they've had 5 wins. So something has changed. They're 5-2 in the last 7. So that's definitely good. Whether it's the competition level they've played, who cares? They're performing better, because at one point in time they were playing big competition and they were still losing. Okay, so any competition is better than the Mets were. But yeah, everything else you want to talk about? Why are we still seeing Peterson and McGill in there? By the way, Peterson's pitched well the other day, and McGill had some up and down performance. Why are they getting opportunities? Because they're here. Because David Stearns needs to evaluate. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. David Stearns is going to evaluate everybody. Doesn't make a difference who it is. Jose Iglesias is on this team. Is he someone that's going to be on this roster for the next 3 or 4 years? No, but they brought him in. He's doing what Zach Short and Joey Wendell was supposed to do. He's making defensive plays, and guess what? He's adding with his bat. And that's great. And if it doesn't work out, if he slumps in the next 3 weeks, he's probably going to be gone too. But clearly, his glove-wise is more impressive than anything else we've seen out of any of these other guys like Zach Short, Joey Wendell type of guys. He's more close to Luis Guillorme, but guess what? He's hitting way better than any of them. So good for him. I'll do a couple of emails too, but let's say I got 2 more voicemails I want to get in before we get to the email. So let's try this one out.
Hey, Evan. Hey, Pete. This is Karen Johnson. I'm a lifelong Mets fan. I'm actually old enough to remember winning the World Series in 1969. I was in 4th grade. So at least I have some balance in the ups and downs of being a Mets fan, mostly downs lately. Just finished watching our most recent excruciating loss in the 9th inning. But that being said, I'm the eternal optimist. And one of the key things that I'm noticing is the injuries to our higher level prospects, especially Mauricio, but to a lesser extent, Gilbert and Jet Williams. Because ever since the trade deadline last year, we've been, kind of starting over and addressing some of the underlying issues. And these injuries are really slowing us down, because Mauricio, I'm sure, would be playing second base now instead of Jeff McNeil. And we could find out more about kind of McNeil's effect on the team chemistry and the issues with the core and all of that are brought up. And I'd certainly like to know what, not having McNeil in the lineup, how it would affect our chemistry, especially before the trade deadline and making decisions about Alonso, et cetera. And then, it'd be really nice to be able to see what would be happening if Alvarez was playing the whole season and just more of the young guys contributing. And then we know we're not making any progress with Gilbert and Jet Williams because of their injuries. Not that they're going to be the answer, right now, but maybe toward the end of the season. It's just slowing down the progress, which is a large part of my optimism, the way we're rebuilding the farm system and so forth. So, I'm just disappointed about the injuries. It seems like we've had the injury bug, for our major leaguers as well as, the younger guys, which is unfortunate. So anyway, thanks so much for what you guys do. It's definitely therapy for me. I live down in Maryland, even though I grew up in New York, and I don't get as much day-to-day stuff not living in New York. So thanks so much for all you do, and I look forward to hearing more from you after this Diamondback series. Okay, bye.
So that was just during the Diamondback series. But Karen, thank you very, very much for sending a call and leaving a voicemail. I appreciate it. And listen, obviously the prospects are something that this team, I think a lot of fans were looking forward to, because that was the buzz going into the end of last season was, look at the prospects, look at the farm team, look at what the Mets are building, look who they brought in during the trade deadline. So there was a lot of buzz there. And yeah, I mean, Brett Beatty gets the call. Francisco Alvarez is here. And that was it to start the season. And that was a little frustrating. That was a little disappointing. Now, again, did I expect everyone to make the team? No. But I thought Vientos should have got a spot. I think we all could say, listen, JD Martinez and Vientos are both on this team right now, and they're both hitting, and they're both playing every day. So that could have happened earlier. Maybe it needed to happen this way, but that's fine regardless. It is, which is good. As far as seeing this team how they gel without Jeff McNeil right now, I do know this, and I don't think it's a secret. Jeff McNeil has one really good friend on this team, and that's Pete Alonso, right? I think everyone kind of gets that vibe. They seem to be the closest on this team. So I don't know if that's part of what makes those two go to be on the field together. But Jeff McNeil just hasn't been playing well. And I think it's time to separate the two. Like, sometimes you just have to be able to realize, hey, we might not both be able to play the rest of our career together. It'd be nice to do that, but it's a business. And one of us may have to go, whether it's for financial reasons because I'm going to get paid somewhere else, or the other is that maybe Jeff McNeil is not good enough and is going to have to get traded away. So, yeah, that sucks. But I got to be honest, it seems more fun when McNeil's not out there. That sounds douchey and dickish. It's just true. It seems that the play of the team just feels better when McNeil's not out there. I don't know if that's just me, just because they've won the past 3 games, but maybe they won because Jeff McNeil's not playing. I mean, there's who knows the ups and downs. I'm trying to find this stat, but my internet is just crapping out a second. So let me see if I can find it here. But I saw there was a farm team thing that popped up earlier today. I'm not sure if there was another prospect rankings that just popped up. But hold on. Let's see what we got here. I want to see if Joe DeMayo does a great job with just keeping track of the prospects. Here we go. So Blake Tidwell, in Baseball America's Top 100, Blake Tidwell and Brandon Sprout are both on there, 94, 97. So now the Mets have 6 top prospects. I'm trying to remember who the others are. Obviously, where are they? That was Baseball America. I thought there was somebody else that had something. Either way, the fact that there's 6 guys out there that are on the top 100, that is a good sign that they are getting better. Because here's the thing is, I was questioning too that, like, we know Billy Epler got prospects, but how good are they? Are they eventually just going to get rid of those guys too because maybe they're not good enough? What's David Stearns going to do? So that was, I think the time is still going to come to see these guys. Listen, Clifford and Gilbert and Acuna, no one's blown the cover off the ball either, where it's like, oh, these guys got to get the call. So it's a little bit of both, whether it's injury problems, whether it's just performance at the lower levels. We'll see. Christian Scott looks good. The pitching prospects do look better than what the hitters are. By the way, shout out to the guys in the Brooklyn Cyclones as they pitched a combined no-hitter the other day. Francisco Alvarez caught it all 9 innings, so that's a good thing. He's not going to be here for the London trip. We know that, but hopefully soon after he'll make that trip. All right, let's get to this last voicemail, and then we'll get to some emails, and then we'll wrap it up. Here we go.
It is officially the Pete Hoffman Show. Hoff, I appreciate you keeping the Rico alive while Evan pretends to go to London with his wife and really go there to watch a Met game. We all appreciate it. I wanted to call in because yesterday Evan read an email from a Rico listener that I thought was 100% spot on. Jeff McNeil's antics on the field has to bring the aura of that team down. Every time that guy gets up, he makes an out, and he's throwing his bat, he's throwing his helmet. He looks so digested. He looks so out of it. He just has a negative energy around him. And I think by moving him or just making him a bench player at best, I prefer to move him, would drastically help the aura of this team. That's one. Number two, now that the kids are running the Rico show, I got to ask you, what do you think about Dustin Poirier losing? It's a shame that Diamond should have won, but he ran into a buzzsaw again. And also, what is going on with Conor McGregor and UFC 303? Thanks, Hop.
Well, good. Thank you very much for making that call. Really quickly on those two things that are not Mets related. I am a big UFC fan, so I do know this stuff. Dustin Poirier, ton of injuries, dude. Look it up. I think he's got a torn ACL or a ruptured ACL. Something with his ACL got messed up. Broken nose and one other injury that I cannot remember what it was, but it just all came out today. He got banged up in there. It was a close fight. I think he gave the best fight to Islam. Unfortunately, to win. Conor McGregor's still on as of now. That could change. Obviously, there's something in training camp that he got hurt, and whether or not he's going to be able to make UFC 303 in a few weeks, to be debatable. Listen, these guys get hurt all the time. They have to pull out of fights all the time. Obviously, they're doing their best not to. I bet you right now, Conor is sitting back with his feet up and not doing anything as far as training right now. I think he's taking a week or two off to try to heal up, and hopefully he'll be ready in time for the fight. But we'll find that out later. And June 29th, UFC 303, we'll find out whether it's still Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. Anyway, back to the Mets. Yeah, you know what? It's funny. We've seen this now. It's a sweep. The Mets got a sweep in 3 games today versus Patrick Corbin. Now it's Patrick Corbin, so I'm not going to sit there and say like, hey, we beat the crap out of, Paul Skeens or Patrick or Corbin Burns. I mean, or Carlos Rodon, who was pitching a no-hitter today for the Yankees. I'm not saying that, but regardless, the Mets still got to hit the ball, and they haven't been doing that. They've been finding ways to get outs and looking sloppy. They hit the ball today. They've been hit the ball all series long. The bullpen didn't have to really be work today, which is good because they can't hold leads. But right now, McNeil not being in the lineup is great. It's fantastic. We're not missing Jeff McNeil's bat. We're not missing his antics. We're not missing anything. So at the moment, it's a good vibe going into London. Now, again, London's a crapshoot. I'm almost going to throw away these 2 games, whatever it is. I hope they split. It's not because it's the Phillies. It's because it's London. I'm just not in the mood to deal with the lack of good baseball over there. They're going to be having fun. I get it. They're going to be off. Their schedule's going to be off. I don't like these games other than the fact that Evan's gone. So I guess it's a positive. So I get to play here, like the last caller said. But yeah, I mean, there's a notable difference with Julio Iglesias, Jose Iglesias on the field, and Vientos and Lindor, and even Torrance, by the way, and catching. He had 2 home runs in today's game. I mean, not sitting here saying that like, we're looking for these catchers to hit, but Nito and Torrance, they're doing a better job than Omar Narvaez, who they paid a ton of money for, ever could have done. I begged for the Mets to trade him in the offseason. They didn't. They DFA'd him, and he's gone, and, whatever. They lost money, and Cohen lost money, and clearly that's not a big deal. That's not the end of the world. All right, let's go to some emails real quick before we wrap things up, because I do want to do that. I want to get some of those in, because that's tradition. We do traditions here. We got a ton of emails, so I don't know how Evan does this and goes through. Jim Kearney. Jeff McNeil came. How great would it have been to see Jeff McNeil's reaction to each of the 7 hits and 3 RBIs Jose Iglesias has given the team, the great defensive plays he made last night? Business-wise, I know you can't DFA him, but it would be really nice. There isn't a good reason Mendoza can give to put McNeil back in the lineup right now. How long do you sit him? Does he play both games in London? I'm sure he's going to, if he's going out to London, I'm sure he's going to get a couple of bats, but only if it's worth it. Like, why are you going to mess up something because you owe Jeff McNeil? You already paid Jeff McNeil. Like Steve Cohen said it a while ago. Same thing when it came down to Verlander and Scherzer. Money spent. I spent it already. If I spent it poor, I spent it poor, whatever. What am I going to do? I'm not getting the money back. So move on from it. If Jeff McNeil sucks and can't find a way to get back on the field, it's gone. You don't owe him anything because you paid him money. No, you paid him money. Maybe he earned it a couple of years ago when he won the batting title, but he doesn't earn it now. So he's got to go out there and do more. So yes, it'd be funny to have a camera on him, sure, to see his feelings on Jose Iglesias. Listen, the feelings are for Mets fans, he's doing great. He's doing great. Ralph, brilliant. An optimistic email for a change. Can't believe I witnessed the Mets sweep a series in which they scored 23 runs with everyone hitting throughout the lineup. By the way, there's a key difference in their offense now after replacing Beatty with Vientos finally, and it was 3 games without a pitcher playing second. And that is a joke on Jeff McNeil. I don't know where McNeil is, but we don't need to see him anymore. Winners of 5 of the last 7 now. I was going to quit watching after the brutal blowing of the first game of the Dodgers doubleheader, but realistically, it's just too soon to give up. So at least for now, I'm very optimistic and glad I'm still watching. That's the whole thing. It's just way too early. It's freaking June. And let's be serious. Like, we had our June swoon. Like, May was our June swoon. If we start losing games in June, I mean, okay, sure, then the season's basically a wrap. But if what we normally do in the early parts of the year is win, maybe now this is our month. Maybe this is the month that's going to help us get back to where I keep on saying, back to 500 ball, which is all we can do. Listen, we've done a long podcast. It's almost an hour, so I don't want to take up too much more of the time. But I thank you guys for following. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving your voicemails. Again, 725-222-8699. You can always follow me at Hoff WFAN. I'll be back with Brandon Tierney and Sal Licata tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. as I do every Monday through Friday. You can listen to Evan and Tiki, which, by the way, Evan is not – I don't know if Evan is going to be there because he's in London. Yeah, so Evan is not going to be there. Nor will he be there Friday. But typically, Evan works the 2 to 6:30 shift, afternoon drive with Tiki. But that's Monday through Friday. But again, thank you very much for all the interaction. It's been great. Thank you for following, even though Evan has taken the day off because he's lazy, because he's going to go out there and have some fish and chips. I really think I'm curious to see what is the first meal that Evan's going to have. And I didn't ask him that. And what type of beer is he going to drink? Because that's really what it comes down to. Is he going to go for one of those appletini, fruity drinks that he loves? Or is he going to sit there and just, man up and have a beer for a change? Like, you're in London. Their breweries are supposedly decent. Go have a beer, dude. Go enjoy yourself. Which I believe they're going to relax the first couple days and then go to the games the last 2. But yeah, the food is not that great from what I understand, but I'm curious to see what he's going to eat first. All right, enough banter. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for following. Thank you for watching, all that good stuff. Thank you for watching another episode of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.